Hey guys, it's me today. I'm here to talk about all the movies I watched in the month of June. I actually managed to watch quite a few. I've also varied first mix. The movies all diverse. There's some like rom-coms in here, like superhero movies, like Flemish children's movies. There's a white mix of stuff that I like in here. And I'm excited to talk to you about them all. I have my fan on though because it's really hot. So if you have like background noise, that's why. And yeah, let's just begin with the first movie that I watched in the month of June, being Sex Appeal, which comes in 2022, and I give 1 out of 5 stars to. Avery, a teenager with a tendency towards perfectionism, enlists her friend Lawson to help her prepare for her first time with a long-distance boyfriend. Honestly, I don't know what I expected from this movie, but just the premise of it sounded fun. But I actually ended up despising this entire movie. Like, I originally gave it 2 stars because I thought like it had some redeemable qualities. Like the side characters, I really like the side characters in this movie. Like, they're fantastic. Like, honestly, the side characters in this have my heart. But the more I like thought about this movie, the more I was like, I hate literally everything else in this movie. Like, that's it. I like the side characters, but like everything else is just like a piece of shit. So I decided to drop it down to a 1 star because like eventually like side characters don't play a huge part in this movie. But basically, first off, why I hate this movie is the main character. Like, she's so selfish, and I feel like she doesn't learn. She does learn lessons throughout the movie, but like none of them are be less selfish. So, you know, didn't like that. Like, she's so self-centered and she doesn't think about how her actions can how her actions affect other people. Like, not at all. Like, even when they like straight up tell her like, your actions have affected me badly, she's telling me like, why do they hate me though? Like, I did nothing wrong. So yeah, you know, I didn't like that. And then I also feel like this movie tried to be progressive. You can tell like very much with like some of the subject matters that they end up focusing on, that they tried to be like very progressive and be like, hey, we're hip with the kids, but it ends up perpetuating a lot of outdated and harmful ideas. Like, for example, the idea that sex and love are the same thing. First of all, no, you can have sex without having romantic feelings for somebody, and you can have romantic feelings for somebody without having sex. You know, the two aren't the same thing. And in fact, that the whole idea of this movie is that the main character learns that you can't have sex with somebody unless you love them. Just fucking hate it. And then also our protagonist has 3 female mothers. Like, the 2 that she's like her moms were together, then they split up, and one of the moms is like in a new relationship with another woman. So like, she's 3 moms. And you think, you know, there's like this huge section in this movie about female pleasure during sex. You'd think she'd even consider talking to her parents about this, especially because her moms are so open about sex. But she's like, no, you have never been with a guy, so you don't know what it's like to have sex. Like, she literally at one point says that her moms like don't know what it's like to lose their virginity because they haven't been with a guy. Which, I don't know how you can say such lesbophobic things while trying to be progressive. And then also just like the whole plot of this movie is basically our main character cheating on her boyfriend, and it never really properly gets addressed. I don't think she even like properly breaks up with her boyfriend at a point in this movie either. So like, you know, in the trash. Then the next movie I watched is Afterlife of the Party, which came in 2021, and I give 2 to 5 stars to. A social butterfly who dies during her birthday week is given a second chance to right her wrongs on Earth. This is a very hard movie to talk about for me because it elicited all the emotions from me that a 5-star movie would have, but like, it wasn't. This one was, I thought it was pretty boring. There wasn't a lot going on. I don't know, I wasn't that engaged by it, but somehow I ended up sobbing by the ending, and I cared for these characters. I thought there was good messaging in here. I hated the ending, like the very end. They could have cut this movie off way earlier and it would have been way better. But yeah, it's difficult to talk about because like, I didn't like it, but I liked it. Then next I would Spider-Man No Way Home, which came in 2021, and I give 5 stars to. Peter Parker is unmasked and no longer able to separate his normal life from the high stakes of being a superhero. When he asks for help from Doctor Strange, the stakes become even more dangerous, forcing him to discover what it truly means to be Spider-Man. I surprisingly like this movie because most of the people that I've seen obsess over the movie are like people who grew up with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Mans, and like, it's mainly nostalgia from them that drove the love for this movie. But as you know, I only watched this movie towards the beginning of this year in preparation for this movie. So no nostalgia at all. And I still really love this movie. I think might also be because Tom Holland is my favorite Spider-Man, and I'll say it time and time again, he's not per se like the best Spider-Man, most comic accurate Spider-Man, I don't care, but he's just a character that I relate to a lot, and therefore I also really enjoy these movies, and I really love this one. I think they did a great thing with the character and moved him in such an interesting direction. I was spoiled for this, but like I still was sobbing to it, you know. If you've seen this movie, you know the moments that I sobbed, even though I knew it was gonna happen. But and I think they went in an interesting, like I said, I think they went in an interesting direction. I'm very excited to see what they're gonna do with future Spider-Man movies, because they left him in such an interesting place in this movie. Then next I watched X-Men, which came in 2000s, and I give it 5 stars too. Two mutants, Rogue and Wolverine, come to a private academy for their kind, whose resident superhero team, the X-Men, must oppose a terrorist organization with similar powers. I think this movie is a great setup movie. Like this setup, the characters of like mainly the character of Wolverine greatly, also woke a little bit, but then like the other characters I feel like were a little bit underdeveloped, and I'm hoping we get to see more of them in future movies. But they set that up brilliantly. They set up the conflict greatly, but like they did nothing with it in this movie. Like this movie was pretty boring. Like not a whole lot happened in it, or at least of value, because there's some things that happen, but you can tell like this is just like the starting point. It's not like this is like a big climax of something. Then next I watched Kadri Dans van de Farao, which came out in 2020, and I give 4 to 5 stars too. Hannah, Martha and Klaasje go to an Egyptian museum to present a new album. They all make a wish to an Egyptian wishing cat, not knowing that it's cursed by Farao Triton Khamon. The cursed wishes turn against Kadri. Can friendship survive? Like I grew up watching Kadri movies, and this is the most recent one, and I hadn't seen it until like we decided to watch it earlier in the month. And I really enjoyed it, surprisingly, because the first movie from like this generation of Kadri Love Cruise, I wasn't the biggest fan of, because like the acting was just like off, like not just from the girls but like from everyone in the movie. So I was a bit hesitant going into this one, especially because it was made during the pandemic, so there was a lot of like, because I've seen behind the scenes stuff, I know they had like a lot of like workarounds for certain scenes, and I was like, you know, they already can't act, so like this is not gonna turn out well. But surprisingly, they improved on their acting a shitload. Like generally, it's decent in this movie. I really liked it. I thought the story was also a lot of fun and great, and it contains a lot of great messages for kids, because you know it's a kids movie. So I like that it contained a lot of messages about that, about like not being greedy and selfish, and like the value of friendship and stuff like that. I thought it was all very well done, and it wasn't like super on the nose. And just I liked how the story played out. I liked like the new characters in it as well. I thought they were fun to follow, and like I could immediately like get a sense of who they were, even like we hadn't met them before. And yeah, I just had a blast watching it. The only thing that kind of bothered me about this movie is the inclusion of the songs. This is a problem that Kadri movies always have had. Like generally there's a couple of ones that don't include music at all, and I'm very grateful for those, because they just don't know how to do it. And then with Love Cruise, they did it perfectly. Like it was a perfect musical. Like every song like fit in the scene perfectly, was transitioned well, and they had like a great balance of songs to movie. And then in this one they just like screwed it up again. Then next I watched Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which came out in 2022, and I gave 5 stars too. Doctor Strange, with the help of mystical allies, both old and new, traverse the mind-bending and dangerous alternate realities of the multiverse to confront a mysterious new adversary. It's a weird thing, like going up until this movie I had seen like only people like rave about it on like my social medias, and then after I finished it I went on my letterbox, and like everybody hated this movie. So I don't know where the consensus is with people. Like I really liked this a lot, but I loved it. I really loved this. I wasn't a big fan of the first Doctor Strange movie, just didn't really connect to the character, didn't really like the plot. So I was a bit nervous going into this, especially because it is also more horror leaning, and I'm not a big horror person either. But you know, Wanda's my person. I love her so much. I've loved her since the second she was introduced, and ever since WandaVision, like it just skyrocketed, because you know she's been popularly developed now. And so I was hyped still. I was still going. And I'm glad to say this didn't disappoint. I actually really liked Doctor Strange in this movie. I thought he was a great character to follow, and I really like I enjoyed following him in this movie, which wasn't the case with the first movie. It's not like he changed much in between. I don't know. Maybe I changed. But I find him much more bearable to follow, and I really like following him. I love Juan. Like you can never have enough Juan. Juan is like one of my favorite MCU characters, just like point blank. Love him so much, and I thought he did such a great job in this movie. And then we have Wanda, of course, amazing. She's in her villain era now and she's doing it so good. Like, honestly, so good. Because like, you understand where she's coming from, because we've had this whole WandaVision saga. We know where she's coming from. We know the grief and the pain she's in. And it just, she's so powerful, and I love seeing her finally use all of her powers and just like blast through everything. And it was so good and so high stakes. I thought she was a great villain. I'm excited to see what else is in store for that character, because Wanda is a character, like the Scarlet Witch is a character that flip-flops between good and bad a lot in the comics. So I'm very excited to see where else they're going to take her. And then America Chavez, I don't know how to feel about her, because she wasn't bad, but I feel like she was we didn't get to see her properly in this movie. I feel like she was very much sidelined, and that was sad, because like this whole movie revolves around her and her powers. And yeah, the story was also fantastic. I think they did a great job of like building the horror. Like the beginning is like very much standard MCU. Like the more you get into this movie, the more like terrifying things starts to happen, and like things start creeping up here. And I think that made this movie bearable for me, because if this wasn't at the same like angst level or like anxiety level at the end as it was at the beginning, I wouldn't have been able to function. There were so many gorgeous scenes in this, and I loved it. And I loved like going to like the different like multiverse, like the different universes. Last movie for this video, but we're talking about Voor, Altijd, which came out in 2016 and was a rewatch. I give 4 out of 5 stars to. Where Jonas's grandmother dies, he inherits 2 foreign objects. The Ghostwalkers soon discover that they belong to a puzzle of 5 pieces, the 5 elements, and even more important, that like object which, according to legend, they make sure they have contact with the Freebirds. But there are pirates on the coast of the objects, but some would like to have in their possession in order to talk with the spirits of the deceased. It's all hands on deck for the Ghostwalkers, because if they lose the elements, they lose contact with the Freebirds, and that could well mean the end of the Ghostwalkers. If that synopsis sounded confusing to you, it also did to me, and I watched the movie. Whoa, who wrote this? I watched this movie like way back when it was in theaters, because I love Ghostwalkers. It's a Flemish like children television show, and then like I believe in between season 3 and 4 it got a movie, and the 4th season was the last one. So you know, I was obsessed with the show, and I watched movies right when it was in theaters, and I loved it then, and I was surprised to still love it now, because I haven't seen it since. And I have had a lot of studio Hunt movies like be duds for me that I absolutely used to love. This one I adored. I thought this was so well done. I really just love these characters so much, and I still do, even after all these years. And I feel like they're very much like the vocal point of this story as well. I feel like every characters act like they're supposed to, and their like character qualities really come to the like the personalities really come to the forefront in like different scenarios during the plot, and it's what kind of like saves certain moments, and I really enjoy that. I really love the story as well. I think it is very like an edge of the seat storyline, and I was constantly on the edge of my seat. It was very exciting to watch. There were a couple of like minor plot holes in here, like nothing that really had me going like, oh, that's just bad writing, just like stuff that went like, how did this happen? Just like real quick recap, because I think I missed the scene. So yeah, really like this one. And that's all I have for you today. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of these movies, if you've seen them, and some of the movies you watched and should. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the God thing have to be so complicated? Should've played